Happy Saturday and welcome to Virtual Veg Fest Live. Super excited to be here today and to talk about green investing, beyond animal, beyond investing. It's going to be really cool. So, if you have any questions or comments, make sure to put them in the little box and we'll definitely address them. But first, let's say hi to Plant Based Network fans because we are now powered by them as Virtual Veg Fest, which is incredible, and you can see our new logo on the screen, so super excited about that. And then our Pass the Buck campaign, you can donate to the Pig Preserve and go to virtualvegfest.com and click on the link and donate. Every dollar that you donate, you'll be entered to win a prize back for more gain. And then like our social media, like Virtual Veg Fest on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you could possibly win a prize back from Follow Your Heart, Crafters Organics, and Hodo Foods. And thank you to them for donating prize packs monthly. And Claire Smith is going to join us. She's in Ireland right now, and it's a little later for her, so they're going to eat dinner after we're done talking. But we're going to talk about investing and how you can align your values with how you make money, which is important if you don't want to like drop some money into something that could destroy the planet. And this is not exactly my expertise. So we're going to rely heavily on Claire to share with you and answer your questions on what is the best way to and how to invest your money. So I'm going to go grab Claire and bring her on. Hello.
Hi there.
How
Here
are
I am.
you?
I'm all right.
It's funny because we just spent the last 20 minutes talking. It's like we haven't
Yeah.
spoken yet.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, brand new to everyone but me and you. So, Claire, I would love for you to share with everyone who you are and the things that you started. And I'm going to put myself on mute because there go the dogs.
Okay. Well, who am I? Claire Smith. I'm a financial industry veteran, I guess you'd say. I've been doing it a long time. I spent my career after I'd left college, and I actually did an engineering degree, but didn't want to go into that profession. Went initially into banking and spent 13 years in investment banking in London, and then spent a little bit of time consulting and freelancing before I then went into investment consulting, where I spent another 14 years. Um, so that was quite a long career in quite a traditional area of investment and finance. But during that period, I'd lived this kind of almost parallel life, which was as a vegan and environmentalist. I got involved in some environmental campaigns, been vegetarian and then vegan since I was 15. And so what I really wanted to try and do was to tie up these two areas of my life and use the time that I was working in a way that I felt was really furthering the cause that I felt the most passionate about, which was the cause of animals. And on top of on top of the issue of exploited animals, caring very much about the environment and understanding how bad the practice of animal agriculture was in particular for the climate and the environment. So that led me to consider how I could reorientate my career. And as really nobody was doing any kind of investing that had a kind of vegan spin on it, at the time when I was working for the investment consulting firm, I started to develop my own ideas as to how I might do it. Um, and um, and that I realized that it would involve basically creating my own firm. But I was pretty happy to do that. I was kind of ready to do that. In fact, at that stage in my life, and to lead a business, or in fact, more than one business now. So that caused me to talk to a few people who I knew in the financial industry, and I was very lucky to team up with a couple of vegans initially for the Beyond Investing, and to be able to create with them the index, which is the US Vegan Climate Index, which we can talk a little bit about after, and then the ETF. And then separately to that, I also got involved with another group of people who were vegan, who were investing in companies, startups that were creating vegan products and doing some really exciting food tech that was allowing animal proteins to be created without the animal. And that was absolutely, stunning to me that this was even possible. And I really felt that that was the way to go, to also have some positions in these companies as well. And that's also developed into a business now where I'm actually running money, not just for myself, but also for other people who want to invest in this area. And it was then through the realization that lots more people want to invest in this area that I started the Beyond Animal platform. And initially, for the first year of its life, it's been more of a connections platform while we've been understanding and doing research and work in terms of how to bring investments onto the platform. But we will be rolling out the investments very soon through that platform with some new technology that we're bringing on board. And we've already done an enormous amount of work. We have many hundreds of companies that have already contacted us about raising money through the platform, and we'll be very excited to start doing that next year.
There's so much to go into. I mean, it sounds like a great option for people to go and research these companies that you put before them, and they can
Mm-hmm.
decide to drop an investment in what could be the next Beyond Burger
Mm-hmm.
before it
Mm-hmm.
is the Beyond Burger,
Mm-hmm.
type of investment. I wish
Mm-hmm.
I'd purchased that stock, but I just kind of slept on it that day. Right? So it's not my thing. It's not something I've always been actively involved with. So
Mm-hmm.
we talk about that now, like we should have done that, and I knew that I should have done it, but I didn't do it. But this is even probably even easier than that. It sounds like, is you're just going to say, here, which do you want to invest in, and
Mm.
then you share the
Yeah,
benefits.
yes, I think what I tried to do was to basically provide some solutions to people who didn't want to spend all their time looking at trading screens, and or didn't have the wherewithal to sit down and start researching a company and wouldn't know maybe where to start. And so, if you think about how people organize their portfolios, so you know, let's say you have a certain amount of money, and you want to put that into the market. The let's just say the generally the stock market, and the way you do it is you don't just buy one stock. You generally would start by looking at the whole stock market and say, okay, the first thing I want to do is decide if I want to be involved in the market or not. And that's generally done through an index. And the index is basically saying this is how, on average, all of the stocks are moving up or down. And obviously, there's some stocks going up more than the index, some are going down or not performing in line with the index. But the kind of default option for everybody is something like the S&P 500 index or a global index if you want to do international stock investment. And so we looked at it from the perspective of what is the kind of default that people use in order to put money into the market. And the usual thing, obviously, as you know, is these kind of index tracker funds, which are just matching the S&P. But as you said, if you go into the S&P, before you get to the fifth stock on the list, there's probably something there that you don't like. If you're a vegan and you're an environmentalist, you're like, oh God, I don't want an oil stock. I don't want a stock that's doing animal testing. I certainly don't want a meat producer or one of the fast food restaurant chains, which are obviously serving, their entire menu is pretty much based on animals, at least until very recently. And so what we've done is we've done that hard work for people of screening out all of the stocks that we feel, and through our own experience as vegans ourselves, my two colleagues on the stock selection side are vegan too, and longtime environmentalists. Our head of US marketing is also vegan. She's in the US, and essentially we're doing that hard work of taking those stocks out, but then building from the stocks that remain a portfolio that still makes sense, provides market access, but that you can still kind of sleep at night.
That's right, and help people grow their portfolio, right? Grow the money.
Yes, that's right. Because I mean, as you well know, it's important to be kind of investing on a continual basis into the market you get that kind of time cost averaging of going in, putting money in regularly. You're building up your portfolio. Maybe you're doing it through a pension, obviously where there's tax advantages to investing. And so we wanted to create the style of product that goes very easily into those kind of financial wrappers. And actually, we've pointed people in the direction of places where they can go to put their pension and actually be able to invest in the ETF through their pension. So we've directed people towards companies that can help them do that, where they've come to us and asked for advice. We're not actually advising individuals. That's important to note. The way that we operate as an advisor is by creating funds that individuals can then invest in. Obviously, with the advice of their financial advisor, but generally we've spoken to quite a number of financial advisors, and those that really understand what we're doing, they seem to really like it because it's been providing good returns, better than market returns, in fact, but with only slightly more risk than the market. We're not taking high risk, and so they feel quite comfortable for their clients to use it for their core allocation to US equities.
And how do you go about being able to do this? Just an everyday person, not a pension, not from a business, but you just have a retirement fund. How do you?
Okay. Yeah. The ETF that we've created is actually traded on the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
And so, if you have a brokerage account, then you most likely can find it. The regular brokerage accounts do, put it up there just like any other stock because it's traded like a stock on the New York Stock Exchange. And actually, on our website, which is veganetf.com, if you go down the page, you see a whole group of brokers that do have it on their online brokerage platforms, which you can then use to just if you have an account with them, you call them, or you maybe have an app. So it's on some of the apps that people use for stock trading, and you just go ahead and place an order. It's really as simple as that. If you want to do it through your pension, it really depends on the type of pension that you have. If you have something of a self-managed pension, like a simple IRA, there you are able to direct the pension manager to buy the funds that you want. And there it's much easier. We found that people have struggled sometimes when they are within company pension plans because the company plans often restrict them to a certain group of funds, maybe from one particular provider, and then they can't add in the VEGN. Um, so that's been frustrating for some people, I know.
Okay. No, I mean, this is one of those things where I know a lot about a lot of things, and this is one that I don't know. So I am that person where you sit on your end, you say, how are we going to explain this to someone who doesn't know much? I'm your audience. So an intelligent person who this is just not something I've ever really put my time and effort into. And at 50 plus years old, I need to. And I advise anybody watching this who's younger than us to start now.
Mm,
And don't wait like I have. That's not smart. Don't do that.
mhm,
As soon as you can, you should start investing your money. If you have it to invest, you should start doing something with it. And
mm.
it's interesting over here. Pension is like a dying word. Not a lot of people
Oh,
have
in
them
terms of
over
the
here.
concept, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very few people over here. I don't know if there's somebody who's starting in the workforce now that will see something called a pension. My nephew moved to the Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, and he's on St. Thomas, and he's working for the government, and they have a pension. And I was like,
Mm,
yo, at 20 something years old now,
mhm,
you might want
mhm,
to stay there until you get your pension, which is like comes due in like 10 years or something. And I was
mm,
like, yeah, that doesn't really happen anymore on this side
mm,
of the world. Just,
mm.
you get, you can, the companies will match to go into a retirement fund potentially, and depending
Yeah.
on how much you do. But pension is like, you know,
Yes, well, that's what I mean when I say retire pension. I guess what I'm talking about is
yeah.
people taking, taking the responsibility themselves, maybe to be putting money aside into their retirement funds. So it's these IRA type accounts that people are using. As I said, sometimes the 401ks, it will work. It just depends how flexible that scheme is that you're using, or whether it's managed by a fund manager that only wants you to put money into their funds.
Okay, are there any other opportunities to invest through Beyond Investing? Now you don't advise, you just create.
Yes, we have that ETF at the present time in that's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. We do have some products which are up and coming, which I can talk in general terms about. Obviously, there's other markets than the US, so we have done the same index construction in Europe. We're about to launch the index in Europe. And then after that, we'll be finishing off the work that we've already done on Asia, and we'll create a global version. So this will be the kind of equivalent structure of like, you'll hear the word ESG a lot in this area, which is something that I could explain, which is it means environmental, social, and governance factors. And so the whole idea of around responsible investing or principles-based investing or value-based investing, ESG comes into that quite a lot because it's tended to become the kind of catch-all word for investing, which is taking into account these kind of principles or values or responsibility. And it's a way of separating it from the kind of traditional style of investing, which is just you put money into the market and you put more money into stocks that you think are going to go up more than the market. So much more about future returns. Um, so what I think it's important to note, though, is that the ESG funds have actually been performing really quite well. Whereas there was, if you asked 10 years ago about ethical investing, the first thing that somebody would say is, well, you're not going to make as much money because you're removing these stocks from your portfolio. You're saying, okay, I won't invest in those. And what if those stocks perform? But actually, because ESG is reflecting change in our society, are we becoming more ethical as a society? We're certainly becoming more conscious of our consumption. And there's obviously regulation that is coming in that is starting to make it more difficult for companies to pollute, to emit greenhouse gases. There's various controls, particularly California, around waste, dumping of waste and that kind of thing. So those kind of costs start to weigh on companies, and if the companies haven't addressed them themselves, then they're going to get into trouble. And so this is one of the tailwinds that is benefiting ESG investing. And of course, from where I'm standing, the big tailwind that I want to see promoted is the moving away from obviously fossil fuel, because that's part of the exclusions that we have, but obviously moving away from animal exploitation. And so one big plus point for us in the last few years has been the way that consumption has been moving in that direction. And it's only accelerated, I think, in the last year with COVID, with people getting much more conscious of what they're eating. So yes, so we fall into that kind of segment of funds that's called ESG. And so we measure what we're doing against what other people are doing. And we're very happy with how things have been going, and also some of the metrics that we've been able to report about our portfolio, because our screens are so much more strict than a lot of the other ESG funds. They have much lower carbon, much lower waste and water footprint. So on aggregate, the companies that we're investing in are using much less water, creating much less waste, and emitting far less carbon than both the S&P 500, but also quite a lot of other ESG funds. And so that's something we're very proud of as well, that we're generally cleaner and greener than the rest of the funds. But you asked about other products, and another product which we are bringing out, it initially will be brought out in Europe, mainly because the costs of creating a US fund are really quite expensive. But we're creating something in a structured note format in Europe, which is actually a small to mid cap growth basket. So I've just said a few words there that probably just completely confused you. So if you look at the market, you have the largest stocks, which are sometimes called the mega caps, and then large caps, which would be, I would say, sort of 50 to 100 billion size, mid caps, which is sort of, 5 to 25 billion, let's say, and then smaller caps, which is below 5 billion market cap. And what we have done is we've created a portfolio which is looking at those smaller stocks. And that's where the more the stocks can be found that are purely doing vegan products. So we all know about Beyond Meat. I think they're maybe about 10 billion in size now. So they're quite at the high end of this area now because of the performance that they've had. But there's actually quite a number of stocks. If you look around the world, and we've done a whole lot of research into about 100 stocks, we found, which have these vegan products, even though they're not sort of making a big song and dance about it, but their product range is exclusively vegan. And because of that, we think that that's quite a nice portfolio, and we'll be bringing it out in Europe, as I said initially, and we'll bring it to the States if we see there's enough demand, and so that will be another way for people to invest in a more targeted way in the vegan market.
That's really cool. Can you name like some of the companies that are in the ETF fund that you created?
Well, in the ETF, we have stocks that are in the S&P 500. So we have the largest stocks. So Beyond Meat isn't actually in the S&P 500, but we have added it into the portfolio because we're conscious that we are taking out exposures in some sectors. Like the consumer sector is pretty absent because so much of the consumer sector is actually using animal materials and meat, dairy, but also things like clothing has a lot of animal materials. And we're also taking out energy, and those are the two main areas of exclusion. Um, and we are looking in the mid cap stocks to see if there are replacement products, replacement companies. So that's how we end up having things like Beyond Meat in the portfolio. We've got some renewable energy stocks coming into the portfolio. In the utilities area, things like water utilities as opposed to utilities that are using fossil fuel. So we're trying to orientate the portfolio by bringing in these mid-cap stocks towards a sort of more forward-looking type of industries and ones that are not abusing animals and not impacting the climate. But otherwise, in the index, you will find a lot of stocks that you recognize. We have quite a high exposure to technology, to the financials area, some material stocks, some industrial stocks. We have a broad range of stocks because the only free lunch is diversification. If you buy one stock, your portfolio is going to be just that one stock, and its movements may be volatile, and you may be gaining a lot, but you may be losing quite a lot. The more stocks you put into your portfolio, the more diversified it is. So this is why we have created the index. It's got 280 stocks, and it is a very good picture of the US market, but without all the nasty things. So you will see a lot of stocks that you recognize that you might say, well, how is that a vegan stock? It's vegan if you think about it from the perspective of the definition of vegan. Vegan means avoiding all animal exploitation. So if you have a company that is making a technology product, let's say Adobe, for example, which is in the portfolio, their product is not hurting animals. So that's valid for us to invest in. It's permissible for us to invest in. Um, and yeah, so that's how the index is vegan friendly or vegan inspired because it's trying to keep out of any area which is hurting animals or the environment.
No, this is this is great for me. Anyone who's watching, if you have any questions or comments, please ask them because if you're anything like me, or even if you're experienced at something like this and you've got your money in things that you kind of like cringe, you recently went vegan and you suddenly realize the planet's getting destroyed and you're making money off of a company that is adding to that destruction, but you still want to make money by investing, then ask away because, or move your money so that you support companies that are not doing that and you still can increase your wealth. Because,
Yeah, I really like the idea of people switching out of the S&P into our index, because if on a sort of, if they take $100 out of the S&P and then put that $100 into our index, what they're effectively doing is they're selling all of the stocks that aren't in our index because they're removing those from their portfolio. And so if, let's say, if you consider it from the perspective of what's happening the other side of that trade, if you're selling out of those stocks, those shares are going into the market. And what happens when there's more sellers than buyers? The share price goes down. So vegans, by their activity of selling out of regular stock market funds that don't have our exclusions into the VEGN, are actually having an impact on the share prices of the companies that they don't want to have anything to do with, and making life tougher for them.
okay. It's like, well, that's easy. He sold me. It's just a matter of doing it. And,
Mhm,
you know, I like things that are easy access. And right now, my retirement funds are not easy access. I actually have to
mhm,
contact a human being to do something with
mhm,
them. It annoys me beyond belief. I am more technical. I want to be able to just go online and go, here's this pocket of money, just put it over
mhm,
here, and then I'm done with
mhm,
you. And I
mhm,
can't. So I hate getting on the phone. I hate it. I hate it. But because it always leads to like at least an hour or more of your time. And
mhm,
I so but it's important. It's something that I will definitely put much higher up on my to-do list, especially in a year where I haven't been as busy. So
mhm,
before I get busier again, because that's the hope is that we'll all get busier, I will definitely I definitely want to move my retirement funds completely into this
mhm,
and know and hopefully have them grow because they're not. I needed
mhm,
to grow and build because it needed to be there for
mhm.
in the next 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's why we're so excited about this growth portfolio, because across this group of stocks that have these just the vegan products, we're actually seeing something like a 24% average sales growth per annum. So they're growing much faster than the market. And yeah, so we'll be pleased to put that out. It'll be a portfolio of about 50 stocks, so still diversified, and it will be a way for people to get exposure to this as a theme, as opposed to just trying to find individual stocks that they can invest in.
Right, it's a common question that somebody asked. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
how can I want to invest my money in a way that, you know, matters. And
Yeah,
it's just like, well, I know some financial planners, or not really planners, but people that will help you invest your funds, but they want you to have, some of them want you to have a lot of money to invest because
yeah,
that's how they make
mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah,
And if you don't have a lot, like if you're smaller, you're just starting, you're kind of
mm-hmm.
in a boat where you kind of have to go to someone like you or go to your website and say, all right, you did this for me. I just need to go find the person who will drop the money there. Or I can
Mm-hmm.
open up an app
Mm-hmm.
now and open up an account with Charles Schwab or whomever,
Mm-hmm.
right? And take the money and go, I want it here, and
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the democratization, because it's making the products available, but also making it easy for people. Because part of the democratization, part of the thing that stops people getting involved is that it is so complicated. And if you're starting from a blank sheet of paper, you're like, well, how do I, if I don't buy this index fund with all this stuff that I don't want in it, how do I create this portfolio? I have to go and decide, do I want to buy this stock, that stock, whatever? And I don't know enough about stocks to know whether I'm buying the right stocks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super complicated.
Yeah, so I thank you. Kudos to your team for doing all that complex work to help people on like my side of the world,
Mm-hmm,
literally and figuratively, to
mm-hmm,
be able to invest and sleep at night. I mean, to me, that's incredibly important. With anything that I
Mhm,
do, I can lay my head down at night and I can sleep well because I know
mhm,
that what I do during the day and what I do each
mhm,
week
mhm,
is of value and matters, and I'm not doing wrong by the planet, the animals, or my health or other
mhm,
people's health. So
mhm.
that is incredibly important to me because
Yeah.
there are people I don't know how they sleep.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's ridiculous if you are making such an effort in your daily life. I'm sure you are. You're going into the stores, you're looking at the ingredients. You're not buying certain things. If you're making so much effort in your daily life to then be forced to put money into companies that you don't want to, that's really frustrating. So yes, part of the effort of what we're doing is to show that it is possible to invest cruelty free, that there is a product out there that is adhering to these principles. We're happy with the way that it's been performing and trading. Just like a normal index fund, it's been going up and down with the market in a no sort of weird price movements that we've been had any reason to be concerned about. And just trying to make it easy for people.
Well, that's fantastic. And then Beyond Animal
Mm,
is really
yeah.
neat because that's how we met because we went live. It seems like as far as I feel like it could have been years ago. It
Mhm,
was this year. We went live. We didn't go live. We met in person like this, and we had a conversation about Beyond Animal, which is this really neat site
mhm.
that you've created that I equated to like a vegan LinkedIn. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
please share more about that.
Yes, well, what we felt was this came out of my work in the investing field, and particularly with the startups that I've been putting money into since 2017. And I just felt that it would be so nice if people had somewhere where they could go, where they could find vegan businesses, where the vegan businesses could also put up their details, get in touch with other vegan businesses, find also advisors or other service providers or partners for their business. Also, ideally, that also had vegan principles. So let's say you're a vegan business, would it be great for you to have a vegan website designer or a vegan accountant, and so that all the money that you were making, and if you were giving, if you were paying somebody for services, it keeps it within that kind of vegan community, so that the vegans are paying other vegans to do work for them, and they know that their money isn't kind of leaking out into the economy, so that is exploiting animals. So that's one reason why I created it. And then the other thing that we're bringing into it is the idea of raising money for vegan companies, because I discovered I was investing and I couldn't invest, just because of resources. One can't invest in everything, but there's a lot of good companies out there, and some companies suit the way that I invest, but they might not suit other people. But the companies that don't suit the way I invest may be perfectly fine for other people. So there's companies for everybody to invest in, essentially, and so we wanted to bring those onto the platform as well. So as well as going onto the platform, creating a business page, it is possible also to register if you are looking to fundraise. And we're collecting this data and matching it against the investors that we are aware of. And we will start the matchmaking very soon. And well, we're already doing it in the background, but we've not started the fundraising deal management side of it yet. But we've been collecting this information and building the technology in order that people can do this investing as easy as, for example, investing in VEGN by using our app on their phone, and then they will be able to navigate to the deals. Obviously, and I have to make this very clear, we're following all the regulatory guidelines, and there are quite a lot of those, which means that we will be using partners in different countries in order that we can access the investors in those countries. We're based in Switzerland, and we have the ability to directly access investors in Switzerland, but in other places, we have to only access certain types of investors. But we'll be rolling this out over the course of the next few months with certain countries, certain investors, and then gradually, as the business builds, we'll be able to provide that opportunity to more and more investors.
Now, is it possible for some of these investors to put their money towards animal sanctuaries?
Oh, certainly, yes. We 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 could do regular fundraising for charities. I mean, that doesn't involve any kind of regulatory aspect at all
Right.
because people are just donating. So that's one feature that we plan to put onto the platform. Another thing is that I have created a foundation, and some portion of the money that well, I say that I'm making for my businesses, but at the moment I seem to be putting in more into my businesses than I'm making at this point in time because they need to grow. And so you have to invest in a business in order to make it grow. But profits coming out of those businesses will be going into the foundation, a proportion of profits. Obviously, you have to plow money back into a business. Every
Yep.
business needs retained earnings, but a portion of the profits will be going into this foundation as well, which will be used to advocate for animals and also to support rescue centres for animals.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, I absolutely love this. I love the idea of matchmaking people who have money. They say, I mean, someone comes up with an idea to make, because so the most recent one was the plant-based fish, was the vegan fish,
Mm-hmm,
right? The vegan tuna. That was
mm-hmm,
one of the more recent ones that they went and they said, I need investors to make this. And that's
mm-hmm,
now on the market. I can't remember the name of that
mm-hmm.
company, but it's now on the market. And
There's a
it's,
number of there's a number of them. I think maybe
yep,
you're talking about Good Catch.
yes,
It's possible. Yeah.
yep,
Mm-hmm,
it's good
mm-hmm,
catch. Exactly,
mm-hmm,
because I know that's the one that was more in my face, as you could
mm-hmm,
say. Like I was like, all right, they were looking for money. Some people over here that I know are helping them raise that capital so they can
mm-hmm,
bring it to market.
mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what, somebody says. I mean, can it be, does it have to be large numbers? Can it be like a small person that says, I would just want to throw $500 at this? And
That's possible through crowdfunding platforms, and that's something that we may get involved with, either by working with a partner that's already got a platform, if we have deals, or we could potentially with a US entity we could get that registration as well. So this is yeah, it's a question of deciding what to do first at this point in time.
right.
Our first port of call is probably to be working through other entities that have already got those registrations in place, and then to show the deals out through those entities.
Okay. Well, that's that's pretty cool. Now for Beyond Animal, it's can just a person who's vegan sign up, not business related, just
Oh yes, yes.
right?
Everybody comes to the platform and creates their personal profile first, just as you do on LinkedIn. And then if you have a company, then you create the company page. And you can add all sorts of stuff onto your company page, make posts, put up documents. So let's say you have products, you can put the sales sheets up for those products. um, put up other types of resources. Let's say you've done webinars or videos. You can provide the links to those videos, and everything is not just like a social media, but it's all categorized. And I think that's really important. Is that what I find so frustrating sometimes about LinkedIn and Facebook and other social media is that something interesting, maybe you 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 may miss something in your feed if you're not looking at it the whole time. That's one problem. But if you do see something on those platforms and you don't immediately save it, you can't find it again. It's sort of disappeared down, and you'll never find it again. Unless you can remember who it was that posted it and maybe go and search through their activity. Whereas on our platform, you can actually search for through dates, and you can search according to different subjects. You can even search for different types of media. So you could search for videos or podcasts or articles or research or reports. And so we've been slowly, over the course of the last year or so, we've just been adding more and more information onto the platform. So it's actually quite a sort of nice sort of vegan business Wikipedia as well at this point in time because of the accumulated information that we've added. And we've also got stuff coming in automatically through our news feed, where we're pulling in through RSS feeds about 70 different vegan news sites and blogs. And that also is searchable information as well.
Yeah, I know because you can upload videos, you can put job postings. It's international.
Yeah, that's right. We
So,
have a jobs board now. Yeah,
right? And it's
completely global. Yeah.
completely, yes. And it just you can write articles, you can put blogs. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely open to making it as easy to contact people. It's honestly it's more European heavy or Asian heavy
Mm-hmm.
than it is US heavy. I feel like at the moment, but I think that can easily grow. And even so,
Oh, well, it
yeah,
could change. It just needs a core group of people in the US
yeah,
to join and to start publishing.
exactly. And I
Mm-hmm.
do have some stuff on there. I don't have a lot on there. For me, I have to get into a routine of adding something into what I do. And
Mm-hmm.
once I do that, then it's just part of what I do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's your site. I get the newsletter, which it's beyondanimal.com, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's as
Right?
easy as that. Mm-hmm.
And then people can sign up for the newsletter, which
Mm-hmm.
I do look at in my email feed, which is actually pretty cool. And
Mm-hmm.
just take the next step from the newsletter to go to the site,
Mm-hmm.
sign up for the newsletter. The call of action is right there when you get to the website, and then take the next step to get on there. Especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for employment that anywhere in the world,
Mm-hmm.
not a bad thing to look at right now.
Yeah.
Right? So
Possibly.
yeah, I mean we've created two things that are relevant not just to business people but to anybody that wants to invest, who's looking for work, who wants to network with
Mm-hmm.
other vegans. It's very focused on
Mm-hmm.
people who are compassionate and
Yeah.
focused on the same values as
Mm-hmm.
you. Obviously, we're all different. We all kind of, that value is a whole line
Mm-hmm.
of where you stand or where you fall on it. But at least you know that the people
Yeah.
involved
Mm-hmm.
have probably a base
Yeah.
core
Yeah,
similar
I
to
mean,
you.
even if, yeah, there's no vegan pledge. If somebody wants to
Right.
sign up onto the platform, they don't have to say, oh, yeah, I am a vegan. We won't, as long as we will not let somebody in if they're not vegan. But, but the whole idea of it is that it should be sort of vegan friendly content.
Right.
And we do have in our terms and service no promotion of animal harm at all. Um, yeah, nothing, no,
Right.
or animal product or anything that would be concerning to a vegan. And I think that's what's nice about the platform is then that you don't. I think on Facebook and some of the other platforms, they've turned into really very useful places for vegans to make other people aware, and have turned into some kind, places where campaigns can be done, etc. But on our platform, you don't have to do that. You can just be sharing and collaborating, and you can move beyond that conversation of, oh, but you need to be vegan. You need to see that this is happening and that's happening, and isn't it dreadful? Yeah, we know that. But now, what can we do about it? How can we then actually interact positively with each other and plan, actions or organize and run our businesses that are vegan businesses? How, the platform is very much about moving beyond that sort of um, proselytizing that needs to be done on the regular platforms into something that is much more about collaboration and moving the conversation forward about, okay, we know that this needs to be done, but how can we move it forward as quickly as possible? How can we work together to ensure that the transition happens speedily for everybody's benefit, for the animals, but for us as well?
I love it. It's what a nice safe space to be in where you can work with one another to change the world without having to convince you as to why.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Everybody who comes to the platform is already on board
Yeah.
with the idea that things need to change for sure,
Oh,
and they don't come to it unless they're interested. So
right. Right. And then, of course, all of you that watch this, go check it out, beyondanimal.com
Mm.
and
Yeah.
beyondinvesting.com too.
Yeah,
So,
it's a 2-minute process, if that, to just make your own personal profile. And, you can add in, links to the pages that you have on other social media as well, if you want to. And then for your business, there's, a couple of forms that come up when you want to create a business where you can put in everything about what your business is doing. And you can add more and add more over time. Whenever you have any news or offers, or as you mentioned, if you have a role for a person, so a job that you'd like to post, just go ahead. We're in the newsletter. We are putting a highlight on the most popular posts and some of the upcoming events, and some of the most recent jobs. So there's always a chance that if you put something up, that you will actually go into the newsletter, and then you'll get the visibility to everybody who's on the newsletter subscription list as well.
no, perfect. That's, thank you.
That's
if,
okay.
if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they get in touch with you?
Okay, so on all of my websites, on Beyond Investing, on um, Beyond Impact, which is the where I do the private investing, and on Beyond Animal, there are contact forms. But if for Beyond Animal, I'm just trying to think where the contact. Yeah, there's a contact us at the bottom of the page, um, and it's yeah, any of those. Yeah, I've got so many emails because I've got emails for all of the different businesses. But yeah, there's always a way to get in touch with me on
I
those websites,
I I understand. I have so many
and
emails.
also our social media. So Beyond Investing is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. The same for Beyond Animal. So that's also a good way to drop us a line as well.
Exactly. So just to touch away from this a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because we're in the middle of a pandemic and you're in Ireland and I'm in the United States of America. We did touch on this before we went live in regards to the differences in how things are being handled and that you're on lockdown
Mm-hmm.
in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
But I did ask, is everyone wearing masks? And what'd you say?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
any indoor environment, people are wearing masks. If they're walking on the street, no, but it's like a automatic thing. Anytime you go indoors or if you go on public transport, you wear a mask.
Right, without issue. And you also said that Ireland is handling this much better than the United Kingdom, which is a mess. Not following science. Just follow the science. It's really easy. Just follow
Yeah,
the
I think it's always
science.
a good idea to follow. It's always a good idea to follow the science. In this situation, in respect of climate change, for example. Yeah, yeah. The
Exactly. So
scientists are the experts. And if you haven't done the work that they have, I don't see that you really have the place to tell them that they're wrong.
exactly. And if you're looking to invest in invest in a green manner, you really are following the science.
Well, yes, and that's what's so exciting about some of the startups that I've been investing in. Some startups are kind of food brands that are creating something which is vegan and then putting it into a nice sort of packaging or whatever, and getting it into the stores. But in fact, I mean, even they have had to look into food tech in order to improve the products, and get them to match in terms of taste or in terms of nutritionals, the non-vegan products, the animal products. And then there's a whole group of startups that I've got involved with that are using biotech and food tech to create facsimiles of the animal products, but without the use of animals. And that's really, that's really going to be a game changer in the next few years, because more and more of these, some of them are already selling those products into in B2B. So generally, they're selling them as ingredients to other businesses, and there's they're going to sell more and more, and they will start to really undercut the animal products. One company which is creating egg whites, their egg whites that they're creating in bioreactors are going to be undercutting cage-free eggs, so the kind of high end of the egg market, and but without any of the problems that there are involved with the creation or the the rearing of chickens and the keeping of eggs, and no avian flu, for example. I
Right.
mean, once we've dealt with COVID, I mean, there's already avian flu strains going around in France and the Netherlands at the moment. There's been a new mutation of COVID that's been created in mink farms in Denmark. I don't know whether you've heard, but COVID has mutated within factory farmed mink in Denmark. And so I think as people start to realize this, they will turn against the use of animals and the concentration of animals in these industrialized facilities. And they will prefer these other technologies that can create those products, but in a cleaner way and without these dangers.
So wait, I can come back because she stopped barking. Denmark, there's been a mutation of COVID in factory farm animals.
Mink.
Oh yes, okay, that came through my feed that it was mink,
Yeah,
and yes,
yeah.
and the one of the things about the article said to be careful if you get COVID in your household with your dogs and your cats and your animals,
Mm-hmm.
because oh gosh, my biggest fear was it, it passing to dogs and cats and them coming in and rounding up animals
Mm-hmm.
from your
Mm-hmm.
household because of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you're not taking my family members because of a virus.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
was,
that was something that was very troubling to me. I think in the early phase of the pandemic, I'm not sure whether the Chinese were taking people's dogs because they feared that the dogs could provide some kind of vector for communication. But then I think they discovered that it wasn't going into the dog population. But apparently, these mink caught them from their human handlers that had COVID. And then there was a strain that kind of developed within the mink, and then it was given back to the humans, and now is in the human population in Denmark. So yeah, very disturbing.
it is, considering it didn't mutate on its own yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're still dealing with the same strain here, which our strain really on the east coast of the United States is from Europe, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the strain that was in China that went to
Mm-hmm.
Europe. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think our west coast probably dealt with the strain from China in Washington State, but what came
Sure.
to New York came on a plane from Europe, which
And
is very interesting.
do you know why it went from China to Italy?
Why?
Mostly to do with clothing manufacture.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of passage back and forward between China and Italy is to do with with the fashion industry and leather and textiles, etc. Because obviously the northern end of it, north of Italy is very big for fashion. And in
Right.
fact, in the early part of the year, I believe there was some kind of leather show where it attracted a lot of Chinese buyers or Chinese manufacturers into Italy. And so I think that was really quite that industry was something of a vector at the time that brought it to Europe.
And it's also interesting that because of animals the virus exists, and then because of animal products the virus moved,
Spreads around
spreads around the
exactly.
world. Right.
Yeah, and I think because of animal products, it's persisting in some areas. I mean, I'm sure you saw the map of the different COVID hotspots in the States, which were very much associated with factory farming or slaughterhouse operations, meat processing plants, as they call them. And we had exactly the same thing here in Europe. I posted actually. I took a picture of the headline on one of the papers. It was a few weeks ago, where they were basically saying that the slaughterhouses in Ireland were also proving to be um, sources of reinfection um, and hotspots, and then it was going out into the local community.
Right. So the moral of this, for anyone who made it this far, who watches this again, is go vegan.
Yeah, isn't that going to, at the end of the day, that has to be just the simplest thing to do, doesn't it? You would think.
For
Mhm.
health, wellness, planet, animal,
Yeah, yeah,
everything,
Yeah,
to
that's right.
limit the possibility of another pandemic happening in our lifetimes,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
limit the hurricanes and the storms,
Hmm.
the heat and the cold, the
Hmm.
weirdness with the weather, the fires. There's just
Hmm.
so many things. And you can do your own research. We're not
Hmm.
just telling you stuff because we want to tell this to you. You can easily research this. Obviously, there are going to be people on the opposite side that say, no, not true. But look at who, the most important thing when you're looking at research is see who funded it
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
go from there. And,
Hmm.
science is science and climate change is real and animal agriculture is a big source of destroying our planet, the
Hmm.
largest source of destroying our planet, larger than all of automation, planes,
Hmm.
trains, on-bill ships,
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
Animal ag is a bigger source of pollution than all
Hmm.
of those combined. Think about that.
Yeah.
That includes every cruise ship that sails on the ocean.
Mm. But I think that's because people don't realize the size of it, because
Yeah.
it's hidden away. I was shocked when I was just going back to the whole mink story again. I was shocked to find Denmark has a population of, I think, about, it's between 5 and 6 million, but it has 70 million mink and 20 million pigs. So the populations of these animals are multiples of the human population, and people don't realize that, because they don't see them unless you go out into the sticks and find these kind of barns or whatever it is where they're keeping them, and go in and see them all crowded together.
Right.
You don't realize.
Until you
So
until you open your eyes and you want
mhm,
to see it.
mhm,
Until you look and see where your food is coming from and you get
mhm,
disgusted by that.
mhm,
That's, you know, we just planted some seeds in this
mhm,
talk, and it's up to whomever is watching that hasn't made the connection to go watch
mhm,
some documentaries, go watch some footage of factory farming and slaughterhouses.
mhm,
There's some movies like Dominion.
mhm,
If you can if you can get through Dominion and come out of that still eating animals, bless your heart.
mhm,
So there's definitely lighter ones that you can take on that focus more on health, like Forks Over Knives and
mhm,
Vegucated,
mhm,
which then you've got Game Changers, which you know
mhm,
goes back into the health side. But
mhm,
animal ag, it's serious stuff, and I
mhm,
try on here to make climate juicier because it's not as big of a get as cooking demos and health related and doctors.
mhm,
That's people are that's where people kind of gravitate towards initially
mhm,
when they're first on
mhm,
this journey. Typically they start with the health side and then they learn
mhm,
about the environment and they learn about the animals and they kind of figure out where they want to go, or they just stick with the health thing
mhm.
and maybe stick with plant-based eating or veganism. But thank you so much. I'm so glad we went there.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I hope everyone else did. Once again, you're just kind of watching me talk with somebody, and you're just we just got into a conversation, which is part of why I love doing these live talks. But Claire, I want you to go eat dinner because it's
Thanks.
late there. You know,
Okay, it was
yeah.
lovely speaking.
Oh, this is
Yeah, I was very
wonderful.
glad that this worked out, and it was lovely speaking to you, and I hope people have enjoyed the conversation as much as I have had having it with you.
Oh, same here. I'll definitely send you the link that's for this on YouTube so we can get it up onto Beyond Animal and share it with everyone else that we know because this was great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's I'm definitely going to make some changes for me based on this talk and I I greatly appreciate that and hopefully, my retirement greatly appreciates that too because that's something I needed to look at. But have
Okay,
a great night and
thank you.
enjoy your dinner.
Thanks so much.
All
Have
right,
a
bye,
good rest of
Claire.
the day.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got as much out of that as I did. And I know we didn't get any questions, but just if you have to, just go back and obviously look at Beyond Investing and Beyond Animal and check that out. And definitely, you know, take care of the planet and yourselves. And one of the ways that you can do that is by green investing. Oh, that was so cool. Thanks. So next week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, John Camp is joining us, which is pretty cool. He's part of the Humane League, and I'm so excited for that. He's a musician, he's an activist, he's all about veganism and humane living, and you definitely want to tune in for that. And then the following weekend, I don't actually have a live planned. I'm going to try and do an in-person event here locally, or just take the weekend off, which is okay too. So remember, wear your mask over your nose, under your chin. Don't expose your nose. Exposing your nose does absolutely nothing. Like it renders this useless. So make sure you wear your mask correctly, over your nose, under your chin, and please be kind. And one of the most important things right now is please stay home. There's really no reason to go out there if you don't have to go out there. There's a deadly virus. It's really raging in this country and obviously in other countries too. So just kind of home is where your heart is, right? I love home. Like, stay home, get online, talk to people this way, be kind, be friendly, and be compassionate towards you, towards others, and take care of yourselves because when we get together in person, you want everyone to be there. So let's remember that. So I'll see you next week. If not, if unless something else comes up and I end up doing an impromptu live. Have a great rest of your weekend, Saturday night and Sunday, and I'll see you soon. Bye.